now begin the session titled Citizen Gain Exploring Data for Systems Change. This session will spotlight ways to tackle the limitations of public data and how citizen involvement and private data can help create a more informed, empowered future. It will be moderated by Mr. Anand Iyer. Anand is the Chief Policy and Insights Officer at Janagraha. He has, over the last 22 plus years, worked across state and central government in urban development, private sector, and consulting in land, infrastructure, and building, academia, and practice in architecture and design, and is now with a civil society organization. I welcome you, Anand, to begin the session.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're refreshed, as she said. Plunge right in. For those of you who don't know Janagra, just a very quick introduction, maybe. We're about 20 plus years old, 2 decades old. Work only in the urban. It's not a sector, but in the urban space. And we work on systems change. So we are not a sectoral entity working on any of these sectors, which is, let us say, waste or water, sanitation, mobility, energy, etc. But the underlying systems that hold these things together, and which is where the topic is relevant, and ISDM was kind enough to call us in here. So there are two things that we do principally in a programmatic fashion, and when I say that, it means that what we are able to work with society and with government in an active role. We also have what you can see in my designation, the backbone, which is policy and insights. So there's policy advocacy and research and insights. This stuff that we do back home to be able to build the knowledge that helps us to work programmatically outside. So two interesting things happen in the way Janagra works, and that I think leads to the session. The stars are actually here on stage, and I believe the pattern is you will introduce yourself very quickly so I don't take further time away from you. Janagra works in a very interesting way. We work with bottom-up citizen participation. That's where our birth is, community participation. And we work for awareness of citizenry and quality of life. It's not mobilizing citizens for any other cause than for them being citizens. And our name, Janagra Center for Citizenship and Democracy. And hence there is bottom-up that we work surfacing the needs and voices of the people towards the government. And then we work top down as well. That's where the advocacy and reforms comes in, where we work with government to ensure that the best ideas, which are the objectives of the government, and the voices of the people that we surfaced are able to be implemented, and they can see implementation on ground. So there's a top down as well as a bottom up approach. What we decided when ISDM called us for this particular topic here is to give you two sides of the story, in the sense that data is all around us. I mean, and I don't need to say this because in today's age, data actually gets generated. Even if you're sitting right there, still your phone is doing things that generates data, I believe. But there are two kinds of data. While it is all around us, if you see it from Janagra's perspective, there is informal data that all of us generate and live as. It's not data. It's our lives as we live in the city. It's just that those aspects of our life, which includes our problems and what can be the solutions for the problems, can be captured as data. But this life has lived on the ground. And then there is data that's publicly captured, that's formally captured through the institutions of man. So man has, since Sargon and Hammurabi and civilization, the earliest cities is what I'm referring to, Jericho and thereon, set up systems that can govern our cities. These are dense locations of surplus. The systems are set in order to govern better, and the system collects data formally. These all called data, but they can look and feel very different, and yet we believe as Janagraha, they impact the same thing which is called quality of life of us as we live in the cities. So what we have here on stage is two teams. One is our municipal finance team who works with the government on publicly captured data to ensure that it is something that is transparent, accountable, and all of us are aware of. This is the top down. And how can it improve governance in the very way in which it is captured, it is stored, and it is shared? And then we have the other team, which is civic participation, which is going to work with data that is bottom up, the challenges that come from there, and ensure that that data is surfaced in such a way that attention is drawn to it and the quality of life improves as well. So we thought this is the best way of demonstrating who we are, as well as the different two forms of data that come in our lives. So without much further ado, that's all I got to say. I'll come back as moderator for questions, and I promised them that audience questions take priority. So please do be ready and watch out for what they are saying. May I invite Mohak and Shobana first, the top-down data, and tell us the case you're presenting. Mohak Mathur and Shobana Venkatasubbu.
Thank you, Anand. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mohak. I've been with Janagra for about 3 years now. And I come from the world of finance, but this world that I'm in right now is what we call public finance or municipal finance. If not equally, much more exciting world than the typical world of finance, right? So just to give a very quick introduction, Shobana and I, we both, like Anand already said, we both are representing the municipal finance team. We typically work with the government stakeholders to advocate for or to support governments in designing or showing them a roadmap of how to implement municipal finance reforms. So we are the geeks in their offices who are always about showing them the this thing that hey, we need reforms, right? What we are going to talk about today is a data system that we believe has the power to deliver on the promise of irreversible and significant social return on investment. That is something that we all are here for today. We are all talking about not just a financial return but a social return. So a social return on investment for India's cities. So just I'm sure most of you know it, but for people who don't, India has about 4,700 plus cities, or what we call urban local bodies, right? These urban local bodies typically house, I think as per the last census, it was somewhere around 350, 360 million. Now you would be somewhere around 420 million, if I can hazard a guess. And this is slated to grow to, say, about 600 million or 800 million in the next 2 decades, right? So the kind of urbanization that we're looking at is going to be unprecedented, right? But are our cities prepared, or are like, will the cities be able to deliver on that promise? Will they be able to? Do they have the capacities and things like? So it has a lot of elements, but one of the promises, or one of the one of the key elements, besides things like urban planning or urban design or civic participation, is what we call sound financial management, that any institution, any system needs to have. So city finance is like a mirror or a reflection of the financial management of our cities. And what we are basically getting at when we talk about sound financial management, we are talking about two things. One is financial sustainability, how well cities are or will be able to generate resources for themselves through their own sources or through outside sources like debt or whatever. And second is financial accountability. How robust are the systems? Can the citizens or anyone who wants to go deep into understanding the financial health, can they easily access the information or not? And so on and so forth. So these are the two kind of pillars of sound financial management, and that is the kind of that is the area that we are trying to hit at, or we are trying to work on. So this is just a context. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Shobana. She will be talking about this data system that I just introduced. Very quickly, it is what we call City Finance, or City Finance, www.cityfinance.in. And this is the official national municipal finance platform owned by the government of India. We conceived it, we developed it, and we are right now maintaining it and supporting the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, which is the owner of this platform. So all the features, all the use cases, everything Shobana is going to talk about in detail, but I just wanted to set a quick context. Shobana, over to you.
Thanks, Mohak. So quickly, let's get right into it. So it's not, sorry. So should I just say next? Are you going to do it? Could you just check? You try. It didn't. Yeah. So that's it? Okay. You're taking my surprise away. Okay. All right. Yeah, sorry about that. I'll be saying next after everything. Yeah.
You need to go back now.
No, I think we'll just open up all of these questions, right? So while he's getting ready, so the idea was that how many of us in our daily commute or day-to-day life complain that I mean, I would like to see a raise of hands, hopefully, that we complain, okay, the roads are really bad, or why is the street flooded, or there's no park nearby, there's no last mile connectivity. So how many do that? Yeah, great, including me. So we all have this voice, and we talk about it, but and there are different ways we can address this problem. One way that we'll see, it's working now? Great. But so there are different ways we can address this problem. One of the ways we'll see what the civic participation team is doing. There are other ways that we've heard today that we try to, answer to make the cities answerable to us. But the municipal finance team at Janagra, what we've done is we decided that we look at it from the city finance lens. When I say city finance, we mean how are cities managing their finances? Do they have enough money? Do they have what are they spending on? And more importantly, this data that is there, are they reporting on it? Are they telling us what they're doing? And if they are doing it, are they doing it in a way that is understandable? And are they doing it consistently? So that's when we started looking at audited annual accounts. A quick snapshot, for those who don't know about finances, the annual accounts give some answers. Answers like, what is your city spending on your day-to-day operations, on their day-to-day operations? How much are they spending on long-term projects, long-term infrastructures projects and asset building? And how much money or how much are they dependent on the state or government to do all this planning? And also how much actually they are independently sourcing their funds. So such information is available, and we think that is a very critical angle to look at when determining how to improve the ground reality. So now this is an example. If you actually, as an active citizen, assuming all of us are active citizens and we want to access this data, one of the ways that we would do it is through an RTI. So you would file an RTI. There are different ways. One of the ways you would do is file an RTI asking very specific question that, I want financial statements. You would precisely get what you want, not more, not less. And you would get it in a format that the ULB has it in, whatever format, be it a PDF, be it a 10-page document, whatever that is. You would have to interpret it. If you're not a finance expert, you take it to someone and you say, okay, help me make sense of it. Let's say you're able to make sense of it. But then what next? Is it good? Is it bad? I mean, how would you know, right? You need comparatives. You need benchmarks. Where do you go for that data? So this was one of the things that we were thinking of. So we started looking at the landscape of the municipal finance data in India. And what we realized when we looked at the data, we found out the data is, in some places, it's incomplete. In some places, it's not in the same format. So within the same city, the same document can be published in two different formats in 2 different years. So you can't actually make it readable. there is ambiguity in the data, there's no consistent data metric that's getting reported, or there's no definition of the data metric. There's outdated data, which means it is not telling me the most recent picture, even if I make sense of it. And there's unstructured data, which in financial ecosystems can be roadblocks, right? So having this understanding of the financial landscape, municipal financial landscape, our platform is trying to solve for this. So let's just quickly look at the product itself. I'll quickly take you through the features. So like Mohak mentioned, this is cityfinance.in. It's a live portal. I would encourage all of you to go and look at it. And this platform is owned by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. And if I have to shortly summarize what we are trying to do, is we are trying to give you standardized, timely, and credible municipal finance information. Now, what do we mean by standardized? All the data that you see on City Finance is in one single format. So every inconsistent format that we looked at, we are converting it into a standard format. The standard format is based on the National Municipal Accounting Manual, which was issued by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Then let's look at credible. Now, once you receive the data, you technically have to take the ULB's or the urban local body's word for it, right? But in this case, what we are sourcing is actually the audited financial statement. So audited means there's an independent review that has happened of the financial statement, and there's an auditor who has provided his opinion on it and signed off of it. So that's the credibility aspect. The next one is timely. So this has come into picture. So once you get the data, is that enough? You need to maintain a pipeline to be able to do trend analysis, to see improvements, or to see what is there room for improvement for. So through the 15th Finance Commission, the leadership of 15th Finance Commission and the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and through our advocacy for the reforms, one of the recommendations was that ULBs have to give their audited financial statements in a prescribed time, within a prescribed time to access the money that they need from the 15th Finance Commission. So that became a remover of resistance and brought about a cyclical input of data into the system. So these are the three main things that we are trying to solve for in the data process. And now that we have now on the start of the journey, so what are we able to do because of this? So on City Finance, you will now be able to see individual city dashboards. You will be able to see state dashboards. You can see pan-India metrics. You can see you have a learning center. You have best practices, and a lot more is there. Toolkits are there, and so on and so forth. I will quickly take you through a city dashboard and some high-level features of it because of the standard template that we put together. So if you have to look for a city, you just need to search for the city. And once you hit search, this is the first fold of the dashboard. So you see high-level profile metrics of the city, the population that it serves, basis the census 2011, what is the density, how many years of financial data are we able to source on City Finance, and the high-level most recent financial metrics, right? Over and above that, then here are the additional layers of information that is there for a city. So you can actually see financial indicators, which are key metrics that give you a high-level sense of the data, financial data. Then you have granular information. You have the actual data that the ULB has submitted. You also have the standardized format if you want to do a numerical comparison. And then we also are able to include operational metrics. So along with the financial metrics, you also have metrics on water and sanitation and how a city is performing against the benchmarks, the service level benchmarks and the national average. And also additional funding information is available in case a city has accessed the market, issued bonds, or has a credit rating. That's in here as well. And the way we've tried to set it up, we do have a visualization pane where we try to give the trend analysis, the comparative metrics, the time series, all that. But along with that, on the right-hand side, we also try to tell what does this actually mean, right? Is it good? Is it bad? And what are the next steps? So here on the right-hand side, you can see the green bullet there indicates that Dhanbad is doing well because you see a trend that goes up in terms of its revenue, and that's written there. But how did we calculate? What does total revenue actually mean? And what can you do? What is the next step to this, right? So we've tried to answer some of these questions. So that's And then here is the granular level data that I said. So what you see on top is actually the standardized template that we put together. And what you see below here is that raw data that the ULB actually submitted. So on the portal, if you go and click on it, you'll actually see what the ULB gave us. And you can then see how we have put it in that standardized template. And in case there is additional information that you're looking for, that is available right there. Right? This is the operational level metrics that we spoke about earlier. And this is where you see the metrics for water and sanitation. So you can quickly assess your city's operational metrics with the benchmark and with the national average. So you can actually see here that Dhanbad is not doing so well in terms of providing per capita water supply compared to the benchmarks and the national average, right? And there's a lot more room to improve, so on and so forth. So that was just part of it. There's a lot more, but let's talk about implementation and what did we have to solve for. So, and how did we do it? So when we first embarked on this exercise, we found out that so in an administrative sense, cities are governed by state municipal acts and the way they function, what powers they have, and so on and so forth. And one of those things in the act mentions is what sort of reporting standard they should need to have for your accounts. There are about 85 different acts for 27 states. And in conclusion, what we found out that there is no one set format even for a single state. So within the same state, like for Madhya Pradesh, we see there's 6 different ways that the ULBs can report their accounts. And in some cases, it's not even mandatory to do that. So it's really up to the ULB to do as they please, right? So what we did, how did we, yes, okay. Okay, 2 more minutes, I think. Okay, so what we did was we took all this data, we standardized it, then, digitized it and then standardized it and put it back in the database. It sounds simple, but it is a manual exercise, so it does take time. But having done that, now comes the context, right? Now you have solved for data availability, the standardization, so now comes the context that we can simplify the data and actually provide context to the citizen, to the policymaker, and so that's what we are trying to do. So I'll just jump ahead a little bit, but here's what we have now been able to do. At an administration level, at the government level, we have now data that can provide insights to officials to make decisions both at a state level and at a city level. For the citizens, you can see the wealth of information that we have. So instead of asking, why are roads bad? Or what are you doing on day-to-day expenses? You can actually go see what is the average day-to-day expense in your city and ask informed questions and write questions to the city. And finally, we believe that this data set that we have built is a very good ecosystem to build upon and write reports on. So basically to improve the research that has happened in municipal finance in India. So this data set can help with that. I'll leave you with our vision. So our vision is to become the platform for financial information on cities. We just spoke about local governments now. We have parastatals also, like your water supply, your electricity board. We would like to get that as well. So then you have actual understanding of the whole money that goes into maintaining a city and developing it. And we want to be the platform for any citizen, be it citizen, market player, be it policy person, to actually come and understand the data. But this is a journey and we've just started. What do we need? We need to understand advances in technology so that we can use it. We want to move away from the manual process, digitize it. So we need to understand, we need leaders, technology leaders who can help us. We need field data experts who can actually tell us what is going on the ground. And more importantly, we need active citizens, because now that the context is there, it's a tool now for you to use. So I'm going to stop. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Vajna. I have such a terrible role here. But I can assure you, Shobana's here, the presentation's here. Anything that you feel you've not shared offline, if anyone requests it, I'd like you to do this. Civic participation team, not much ado. I'm sorry, I'm also constrained by the technical delays as well as the delay in starting, but you have to absorb this. Shivashankar Varchaswini. Short one on yourselves and then...
Definitely, I'll do justice for that. Namaste, everyone. I'm Shivashankar Aihole. I'm a senior associate working for Janagraha in the civic participation team. See, I'll just start with asking a question, simple question. I'll finish it quickly. How many of you come from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities here among the audience? Oh, there are lots of hands. We talk about nation's budget, especially in the month of March, right? We also talk about our state's budget. There's headlines in every media and even in our neighborhood also. But I'm asking you a question. How many of you know the budget of your city in which you reside? Further down, I'm asking you another question. What is the budget of your ward in which you reside? You have a councillor, right? You have elected a councillor for your ward. Are you all aware? Don't worry, I too was unaware of it. This is what brings us to the civic participation, especially in participatory budgeting. So my colleague Varchaswini is going to talk about the event, the campaign that we carried out in Bengaluru and later on in Mangaluru and later on in Kalburgi about participation of the citizens in the city budget. Now, how is that? What's the campaign about? How it was being done? How the toolkit is getting ready? How it can be replicated across 4,000 urban local bodies in India? Varchaswini, please.
Thank you, sir. So, hi everyone, I'm Varchaswini. I represent Civic Participation Team. So, I guess like if you see your news channels or radio, these are the questions that will pop up, right? On everyday, your dailies, where and how is your money budget spent? And that's what almost city finance people talk. So, I would like to say that they are the supply side and we are the demand side as we do the bottom up approach. So we bring in the citizen priorities to the government. So that's why we call ourselves as the supply side of the system. So we have three tier system. One is the central government, one is the state government, and another is the city government. And city government is the most neglected part system of the governance. So however, but we need to understand that whatever problems that we have, like say for example the roads or the pedestrian infrastructure or the lakes, everything comes under city governance. But how well are we aware of this, right? So the smallest unit of city government is ward, but not many of us understand, even including me. When I step into Janagraha is when I actually understood that our first stop to mitigate these issues is our city government and not the state government. So with that, I would like to say that how our constitution actually brought in the three-tier system through the 74th Amendment Act or the Nagarapalika Act as we call it. So through inserting the Article 243S, the constitution actually mandated to constitute ward committees in almost all the cities which had more than 3 lakh population, and it also empowered and brought in a critical component of involving, giving the power to the people. So it brought in the participatory budgeting component to the constitution, wherein actually the city administration can collaborate with the people in ward development plans and in monitoring the planning works. So where do we as Janagraha step in? This is where we step in. We actually facilitate on getting the citizen demands to the government, and that's when we actually started the MCMB campaign, which is nothing but a participatory budgeting fest. And why do we call it a fest? You'll get to know later on. So what is My City, My Budget, which in short is MCMB? It's an annual participatory budgeting campaign which involves citizens, and this actually carries out between collaboration between the city governments as well as the citizens. So it started actually in 2015 as a people's participation movement, and this was just piloted in 5 wards in Bengaluru, and slowly it started gaining attention of the city government, and that's when the mayor herself actually came in and inaugurated the My City, My Budget campaign in the next year, and it was carried in all the wards of the city. So that's how it started. A people's participation movement actually saw the attention of the government and how collaboration actually worked, and it was carried out for almost 7 years, and this year was the 7th year of the campaign. So far, we have almost collected 1.4 budget inputs, and So first it was carried out in Bangalore, and we are in the 7th year of MCMB campaign. And because of this, the other city government as well wanted to implement this in their cities, and that's why even the Mangaluru, this campaign got snowballed to Mangaluru city as well as the Kalburgi city, and Kalburgi became the first North Karnataka city to actually involve people's priorities, needs in their city budgets. How does this MCMB start and what's this life cycle? So it basically the city government starts their budget preparation during the month of the November and December. So that's when even we plan and strategize on how to collect the input. So we do it through consultation, not only through citizens, not only through corporation, but also through elected representative. It's the budget inputs or the categories that we collect or chalk down, tone down, will be done through all these three stakeholders. And then we collect, and this campaign runs almost for a month. And then we collect citizen inputs all over the city, and then we analyze the report and submit the report to the city government. And they analyze the reports, and they actually analyze the budget, and they incorporate that into their city budgets. And that's how the city corporations actually include the MCMB budgets. And that's like a pretty much success or a stepstone for us to, carry forward this campaign every year. And we do not just stop at just getting the inputs from the citizens, but we facilitate, act as a catalyst in monitoring the works of these inputs collected also. So that's where we come in by doing, after the city budget book gets published, we do analyze the city budget, and we published something called as Know Your Ward or Ward Budget Briefs, wherein each ward, the line items gets called out, and citizens can actually take that ward budget brief and go to their city government or the councillors or the elected representatives and say that these are my budget inputs, these are the line items, these are the funds that's earmarked to those line items, and we need this implementation. So that's how they pressurize the government to do the developmental works. And post that, we help them to monitor the ward developmental works, and then we again identify the existing issues that happen later on, and that's how the cycle continues. So coming to the campaign, we do it in two modes. One is the offline mode and one is the online mode. So online mode is done through something called as My City My Budget website. So you can see that on the right hand side, and this is the online form, offline form. So going into deep, this form actually is not just, we don't collect, say for example, okay, we need footpath or we need street lights. We actually do it in specific and location based, where we actually ask them, do they require improvement in the footpath or repair the footpath, or do they require a new footpath altogether? So that is specific, and it is location based. We ask them in which location and in how much kilometers do they need this footpaths, or do they need that improvement in the footpath. So it is specific, location based and length based. So we go not just on the macro level, but this dives deep into the granular level as well. So that's it. And inclusivity always remains hallmark of this campaign. So we do not neglect any socio-economic class of the society. So it is, be it, if you're a normal citizen, you can go. If you're elected representative, you can give your input. If you're government official, you can give your input. There's no bar, there's no age bar also. So this campaign cuts across all socio-economic class, gender, sex, everything. And how do we gain people's attention? So we do conduct activities, we do webinars, we do workshops, we do something called as fun activity called freeze mob, flash mob, wherein people themselves, they actually come and request that they require MCMB camp budget bus to be gone through their ward. So that's how we conduct it. we go to colleges, we collaborate with educational institution, we announce it through radio stations, and so on. And coming to the analysis part, so how do we analyze this, the data which we get? So we get a huge data because this goes all around the cities, and the data which we get is very huge. And we not only do it at a local level but a hyper local level. So this is just a snapshot of Bengaluru MCMB campaign. So Bangalore has 8 zones. So that's why you can see the 8 zonal wise breakup. And you can see to your right hand side on how many kilometers of footpaths needs to be repaired. So that level of data, hyperlocal data analysis will be done after the campaign. And this year, so one shift that we have done is we have included the environment and climate resilience as one of the sectoral focus this year, and that's why you can see how pedestrian and vehicular mobility has gained attention, how we have tend to augment the solid waste management infrastructure, and how few zones have actually asked for the footpath improvement. So these are some of the, and non-motorized transport is also one of the key aspects that came out as a part of this report. And we not only just map or give the locations, but we do something called a spatial analysis or heat map, as we like to call it as, wherein you can actually see that the inputs that we receive have been marked inside the map, and this data will actually help the government to understand which peripheral area requires immediate action. See, for example, for the footpath maintenance, the inner zones have actually asked for improvement footpath maintenance, right? So they know that the inner wards require more, so their concentration will be more on the inner wards. So spatial analysis will actually help them to understand which needs to be prioritized. And MCMB campaign, as I said, will always be done not in isolation but in collaboration. So that's the main motive. And this was done through consultation of Bruhat Bengaluru Mahanagara Palike, Mangaluru City Corporation, and Kalburgi Mahanagara Palike. And not only them, we have something called as Balaga, which I'll come next. So those are the city leaders who actually run the campaign and they submit the report, and these are the snapshots of the report submission. And you can see how media coverage has happened not only in the local news channels but also in the national news channels. You can see the Hindu Bureau, Indian Express, Times of India, and all the Kannada channels. And more than success, I would like to call this as a very infant evolutionary step, wherein the corporation went one step ahead and actually issued circular and notice saying that the ward committees needs to collect citizen inputs through the ward committees on the third Saturday, which happened in Bangalore. And this is required to understand the budget. So the circular actually talked about the My City, My Budget campaign in both Mangaluru as well as in Bengaluru. So that's one of the step that corporation went ahead and took this year. And BBMP actually made history in 2021 and 2022, wherein the city budget book actually mentioned about the My City, My Budget campaign and allocated almost 120 crores. And they actually talked about the ward committees that we actually had binge on so far. So yeah, 120 crores was allocated in 2021, and with you can actually see the red mark which is marked, right? Public participation and the My City, My Budget campaign which is mentioned, and one of the input was actually for the footpath. So that's one of the thing. And this year 2 crore per ward was allocated, and few of our budget inputs, whatever was submitted, was actually incorporated in the city budget. So that's one of the breakthrough we can see. And So, as I said, we do not stop at just delivering the citizens' priorities to the government. We help them monitor the developmental work. So, how do we do this? We actually create a toolkit. For example, this was ward walkability report. So, we analyze how the status of the footpath, how many road networks needs to be covered, how many road networks needs to be improved. So this was done through citizens, active citizens who actually came in and surveyed. There's some analysis, scientific toolkit that went away, and then the costing analysis was done with the help of ward engineers. So we piloted this in 5 wards, and post this, actually, almost another 5 to 6 wards came to us and told that even we need to do this kind of survey in our ward. So I guess that's also one of the milestones that we achieved in 2021 and 2022. So, okay, so just give me 2 minutes. It's done. Okay, so as I spoke about what Samiti Balaga, Balaga in Kannada means community. So we are creating a network of active citizens who actually envisage our activities in their respective cities. So we have different city chapters, and these people actually spearhead MCMB campaigns and other activities. And we had state level convention in September 2022. And done that. Yes, done that. Okay. So what actually started as a people's participation movement became actually a movement run by the citizens. So MCMB talks about all these things. So I would like to pause here and answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Varchaswini. There has to be data on how much guilt every moderator carries after every session. So I feel so bad standing between you and them. I'm going to prioritize the few questions that have come in written form, and then I'll open the floor for any others who have gathered their thoughts later. There are 2 questions that I'm not taking, in the sense that they're suggestions and there's somebody offering help to all of you for data collection. So field support, especially the civic participation team. There's also a question that says influential builders with stronger muscle power, how does Janagra deal with them? All right, so unfortunately we didn't bring that team in here. So then there is I Change My City, there is Public Eye. You should look at these websites on the Janagra portal. Now, it's not as if we lock horns with the builders themselves. It's not the builders, it's the system that allows something to flourish, does not punish, or gives incentives to those that are practicing honestly. That is the system we are working on. So it's not locking horns with them, that's law and order. However, we do have I Change My City and Public Eye, etc., etc. You should look at them. So here are 2 sets of questions. I'll start with this. Very coolly, they got categorized, so it is very nice. I'll start with the municipal finance team, because they came up. How open and transparent are the government bodies in sharing these details? If they are not, how does it affect your work? And do you bring the officials on board for the dashboard? Do they use the dashboard for decision making? I think these are 2 very good questions. I'm glad to repeat them, but you can take them separately. Yeah?
Thanks. Shobana, I'll answer first and you can add. So, this is, like Shobana had mentioned, this is a mandate that they have to do. So, before the 15th Finance Commission mandate came in February 2021, through the, the final report, which was tabled in the Parliament. Before that, we were trying to get the, the financial statements, audited accounts. We filed RTIs. We used various routes, and we reached somewhere. I think we were at maybe 1,000, 1,100 statements, that kind of a thing. But it is only when the 15th Finance Commission mandated that you won't get a rupee till you publish. They took attention, and City Finance was also called out in the FC report. So it was right there. They couldn't duck it. And we didn't stop there. We actually volunteered with the ministry. We said, hey, hang on, we will be your PMU, because we don't want the conditions to get diluted. Like I told you, we are geeks on reforms. So we help them to write the operational guidelines also to the T. Nothing should go, nothing should get missed. We didn't stop there. We had already developed, we had launched City Finance. We said, let's make it paperless. let's create systems, or let's have the workflows also integrated so that they can easily send the data or upload documents. The state can review. So we invested a lot, effort, money, everything, and we created a paperless workflow also now. So we are trying to address it from both sides. The mandate is there, but at many steps there is a risk of it getting kind of diluted, right? Because maybe the administration here in Delhi, they may say, hey, oh, we want to release money, so we can go, we can go easy on certain conditions, but we always try to kind of stand there, uh, and we try and find middle ground. Because of that mandate, they are using it, they have to use it. That's one part of the answer. I think at some stage we also realized that while for the first 2 years the mandate was for only 25% urban local bodies to publish, which would technically have meant, say, out of 4,800, maybe 1,200 should have published. But we've actually seen 3,300 have published. So it's not that the intent is not there. The municipalities are making it maybe with a certain delay, and they are publishing it more, like almost three times of who were just supposed to. So it's also a function of how the states really create systems within their sort of area of influence. And some states are very good in terms of they're nearing 90% or 100% of their ULBs are actually filing audited accounts and stuff like that.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean,
So I get the question. So there is a nudge. First, a nudge is required. So once a nudge comes, preferably from the top, there is openness and transparency. But then once the nudge is there, the others follow suit because they are seeing something. Which brings me to the second question. Are officials using this? Are you helping them? Are the ULB officials? What are those challenges? Do you see them just uploading, or is there further action?
So, in terms of claiming grants, whatever they need to do, the bare minimum, they are doing that. We are seeing, I would say, 80-85% of the urban local bodies are using the portal. I would say 4,300 plus out of 4,800 are using this very actively. Every year they submit. Uh, so, for those things, they are using it. To kind of self-improve and those things, they, like you said, they need a nudge. So when we analyze the data, when we tell them, hey, we've seen your accounts and there are these errors, please get them corrected, we tell the states. So the state then pushes. Again, not a question of intent. The intent is there, they want to do it, the capacities are not there. Or they will do it, they'll put it in process, but it'll take time. We'll have to remind them or go back. So that's my short answer.
It's an interesting one if you want to add. So in which case there is a nudge required even for that participation, and then there is a capacity problem. So though they want to do it, somebody needs to probably help or guide and get it done. So I appreciate the challenges. Unless you want to add, then I'll get on to the...
Take 1 minute.
Sure,
ma'am.
sure. Please.
So you asked about the dashboard, if dashboards are getting used. So what we showed here is a public dashboard. So it's not only the administrator, it's anyone who can go and right now see that dashboard. But we have a dashboard behind the login because we have the process where you will be submit the document. So that is something that is now we've seen. So again, like we had to nudge the state, nudge the union level that there is data now. So now it comes back to us that the dashboard is not enough. They come up with things that अच्छा ये तो डेटा है इसका डेटा निकाल के हमें बताओ and we don't have the dashboard ready. So now the thinking has started. Oh, all this data you're collecting, can you just do this and tell us? So that mindset is now changing, that let's look at data to figure out what is the next step that we need to take.
Lovely. Thanks, Shobana. I'll come in with any more questions for you, but presently the civic participation team. So similarly, there are two questions. One of them is common with the municipal finance team. I guess you can predict this, which is that big jump between two of your boxes, saying you raised it with the cities, and then you silently said the cities made their budget. Did they actually incorporate? Though you showed us a few examples, that probably is the question somebody is saying. What does it take to get that adoption of your efforts into this? And the second one is again very simpler. to how do you bring this change? How do you build further capacity in order to the citizens are raising their voice, but the officials in turn need to step down. And are you helping that they are able to accept the data that you're getting in? Is there a role that the officials play in this?
I would like to answer the first question that you asked, the jumping of the boxes, right? So, uh, yeah, they do incorporate. So the thing is, citizens need to pressurize the government, right? It's like two feathers flock together, right? So it's not only the administration part that actually comes and steps down and asks for the citizen participation, because that's what BBMP is doing. They do ask for suggestions every year. They keep boxes in many zonal offices and nudge citizens to come and give suggestions, ask their priorities, what are their issues, what should be the funds that needs to be earmarked to those issues. But the participation from the citizens side is very minimal. So how do we do this? I guess through these kind of campaigns, I guess we can increase the citizen participation. And if the citizen participation increases, automatically the city administration will incorporate those priorities, those issues into their city budget. So that's actually what happened in 2021.
By which you mean the elected officials. The
Yes.
elected one naturally will respond
Huh.
if more citizens are raising their voice.
Yes,
But
yes.
does the executive also respond? And because
Yes,
the
yes,
executive
they do.
prepares the budget.
Yes, they actually prepare the budget. So I guess with more participation, it's a correlation, direct correlation. So with more participation and with more citizens coming out and talking about their issues, the executive will automatically take that. So that's what I was speaking in 2021 budget. So that's how the footpaths got 60 lakhs allocation. So
Sure.
yeah.
And the other question, do you work with the officials? Do the officials work with you? Or you only raise the citizens' voices?
Yeah, it's a reciprocal process. As I'd just like to reiterate what my colleague Varchaswini said just now. I would like to take the liberty of using the Hindi word here. Bhagidari is a trending word these days, right? You all have heard, we all are hearing it. That's nothing but civic participation. So no amount of reforms is possible without the active participation of citizens, the true stakeholders of the democracy. That's what my colleague Varchaswini was telling about, be it bureaucrats or elected representatives. Only pressure that can work out in democracy is at the grassroots level, the citizens have to come out clearly and voice their opinion. And we're just playing the role of a catalyst. Because as Vachaswini said, it's not that the city corporations were not asking for suggestions of the citizens. It's a routine process. In some chamber of commerce or some hall or town hall, they just ask for a meeting and then God knows what happens after that. I'm not sounding cynical, but it's fact across all the cities. But what changes here is when organizations like ours comes into the picture, and as she was using the terminologies like scientific tool, tool and all of that, surveys, all of these, and report, analytical report, spatial report, and all of this really brings in the picture in the minds of the elected representatives as well as the bureaucrats that, hey, something is happening here. And it is the pressure of the people that brings about these changes. Thank you.
Fantastic.
So
there is. Sorry.
just to add one point. So you said that how do we work with the governments, right? So because of the success of the Bengaluru MCMB campaign, the Mangaluru and the Kalburgi City Corporation, they themselves actually asked, like, why can't we do it in our cities when Bengaluru can? Why can't our city do, right? So
Okay.
that's how.
So I guess
it
what's
impact.
happening is the numbers draw attention, and the councillors or the elected representatives automatically react. But the analytical tools, so raw data won't work. It's when you make sense of it, you spatialize it or localize it, that the executive is able to relate to it. So there is some strength in numbers and some in the scientific method employed. Fantastic. There is one question and I love the questioner, in sense of the question, of course. I'd like to direct it to the finance team simply because of the nature of it. Obviously, the audience thinks that you're doing a good job and it is terrific as long as you're doing it. So the question says, data analytics, digital tools, what is your strategy to empower that this continues? Which obviously means without you. How would you like to deal with that?
It's a fantastic question. It's something that keeps us awake. Uh, it's something we are, I think every day we are maybe moving towards it 1% or.
How?
Uh, we want to institutionalize this, and the way we want to do it is, so you might have seen, reports like, if anyone follows podcasts, Economic Times yesterday covered a podcast on municipal makeover or municipal bonds, right? Some people write about, these days municipal bonds is fairly warm or hot. People are talking about it. Uh, so they are basically talking about it because RBI wrote a report last year. RBI wrote a report, and I'll just give you a context. RBI wrote a report last year in November, they published it. That municipal finance report, a national municipal finance report, was based on data from 200 corporations. To put it in context, we have 4,700 plus urban local bodies. So they and that is how it has become mainstream, kind of, So what we are trying to do, I'll come back to your question now. I tend to go, in a
No,
tangent.
I'm here.
So how we want to, embed this in their life. So let's say the 15th Finance Commission module where they claim grants, we want to really embed it in their daily lives through better workflows, or right now they have the mandate till 2026 because of 15th FC. We want to also we want the 16th FC to also pick it up.
So let me try this, because you're missing one part of the question. One is, you build enough momentum from RBIs and 15th Finance Commissions and once there is momentum, it will run. But the second part of the question is on the analytics and the tools, you see, because that is intellectual, that needs people.
Yes.
There may be momentum, but they will still need Janagra or somebody, or will it work by itself? Have you seen the officials becoming savvy enough with it?
Little bit, I would say yes. Definitely at Delhi, they want more data now. Now they are looking at analysis.
When you say Delhi, you mean the union government?
The union government, yes, absolutely. Sorry,
no, it's a big,
I should have
big
clarified.
problem here.
I should have clarified. The union government with whom we work, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, who are administering these grants, which are to the tune of 1 lakh crore plus. So they want to look at data more and more now, because they want to base their decisions on reality, on ground reality. They don't want to just put in a line in some policy document which is away from the ground reality.
But then doing it themselves is a little far away, is it?
It's little bit away,
tough away.
but they're getting used to it.
Sure.
That they need it.
Sure. One clarificatory question, then I'll open the floor because I see a couple of raised hands. One clarification for everyone in the audience. Janagra is not a consulting entity. We are a CSO. So all the work that you see, we won't take a penny from the government. Therefore, it is not in our interest at all for the government to keep needing us. It is in fact in our interest to make sure that we get away and the government can continue to do it. Therefore, the word that Mohak used once or twice, saying systematize it or institutionalize it. Therefore, unlike consultants who would like longevity, this is not the case. So I thought I should clarify that. Person here had a question and you are the organizer. All right, so bad. Terrible. This is your time I'm taking, okay? The one that you took from me in the beginning. Is there someone else entering the hall or something? Plenary has started. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Quick.
Just a quick question. You have a political mandate, the 15th Finance Commission, which helps you do this. If that wasn't there, what would you do? Because we want to do this for a lot of other things. Standardize data, have it one place. Drive analytics. We might not have mandates for everything. What is your idea? What is your approach to that?
Sure. If we didn't have the support of the 15th Finance Commission. Go on. Push this up.
I'm pushing it. It's working, yeah. So the second question is that in terms of the institutionalizing and systems change here, the question is actually is the fact that how are you empowering the urban councillors, city councillors to understand these things? So because you are asking for the citizens, but at no point are you trained. It was your report which said that today out of 4,800 ULBs, more than 50% are women because of the 33% reservation. And we know which women are. They are usually the wives and whatever, daughters, etc. Now, how are you capacitating them to understand these financial statements so that a citizen doesn't have to go and say that, the footpath is broken? The ward councillor should already know that, should already have connected with the finance team and got that information. So where is that link happening?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Do you want to quickly respond to him, because this is the more tricky question? If you didn't have 15 Finance Commission behind you, I know you said that it was tough going. They got about 1,000 through RTIs, and then somebody says, you know what, I won't give you money unless. And then they get 4,000. What will happen if that's not there, that incentive?
It's gonna be tough, but we are trying that in the next 3 years. We we have city finance. We have people getting used to city finance so much, or already embedded in certain policies, or let's say in Amrut or some other schemes,
Sure.
where if not 15th FC or 16th FC, someone else.
And then
They
there are
call
the
it out.
bonds. He referred to the bonds, he referred to the markets, which means there are multiple uses where somebody else can say, आप वहाँ डाल दीजिए, मैं वहाँ देख लूँगा. Which means there can be triggers. Not as if the finance commissions are going to stop using something, but I guess that's one. Shivashankar, would you like to take the tough one? And those who are really who are got their eyes on the plenary, please do feel free.
It's a fantastic question. I appreciate that you asked this question, because the councillors need to be empowered. That's the question, right? As far as participatory budgeting is concerned, I think Varchaswini must have mentioned it. Ward Sabha handbook and exclusive training for the councillor is also conducted by Janagraha. Not only for the ward committee members, but also for the councillors exclusively. A workshop is conducted wherein they are encouraged to ask questions, and in vernacular language, they are also given the handbook to study it. And interactive sessions are also held. And as far as citizens are concerned, the collaborative effort, Balaga, which we call it as, it is at the level of the entire Karnataka state under the all 11 municipal corporations. Thank you.
One question. This handbook is available on the website?
Shall I?
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
And can it be replicated? Because that's part of some of the
Yes,
questions.
okay. So regarding the capacitating of city councillors, we do have something called as CLP program in Janagraha, which actually gives training to the city councillors, ward committee members, and elected representatives, basically. And this was actually done in Mangaluru. Almost all the 60 corporators attended, and they were made aware of all their roles and responsibilities, right? So we have these programs, and this can actually be replicated in all the cities as well. It was actually replicated even
But
in
the point is
Ballari.
whether the Ward Sabha handbook is available.
No,
Re-
sir, I was just answering that question. So, yeah. And regarding Ward Sabha handbook, that is called as active citizenship, how a citizen can engage with the city councillors and what are the roles and responsibilities of the city councillors. It is in its process, and it will be launched very soon, and it will be made public.
So the real success will be when the city councillors start asking for this.
Yes.
So right
yes.
now they're getting demands. We're getting demands for replication. It's slow, and like we fund ourselves. So therefore we need to search for funding in order to be able to service more demands. It's a struggle. It seems the timekeeper has a timekeeper. So I'll have to give up my responsibilities here. Short round of applause for our